Hello there. Today I'm going to present my favorite moral theory, which I call mild welfarism. The idea behind mild welfarism is that welfare is important. Your welfare is important. Your welfare measures basically how good the situation is according to you as an individual. So you have a positive or a negative valuation of a situation. It's valued by you. Now, you're not the only person who is important. Your welfare is not the only one, only welfare that counts. My welfare is important. Everyone who has a welfare, so everyone who has a positive or negative evaluation about the situation counts equally. If you prefer a situation, your welfare is positive. If you do not prefer a situation, your welfare can be negative. Now, what we have to do is, one suggestion is to simply add up everyone's welfare and then choose the situation where the sum of everyone's welfare is the highest. Because you're not more important than I am, so our welfares count equally. We simply add up all our welfares. This is the idea behind what is called total utilitarianism. So utility is basically also a synonym for welfare. And total utilitarianism, taking the sum of everyone's welfare, that's a problematic theory, according to most people, because it is very demanding. If we simply want to choose a situation that has the highest total welfare, then this theory entails a lot of huge sacrifices. For example, we have to give away our money and resources to the poorest people until we become as miserable as the poorest person and live lives at the subsistence level. We also have to donate our kidneys and other organs for transplantation until an organ shortage in the hospitals is eliminated. Or we have to donate blood until we become anemic. We have to have more children than we would like until an extra child gets zero negative welfare. We have to prioritize helping the poorest children instead of our own children. We have to sacrifice everything in order to cause the existence of huge numbers of extra people in the far future, even when those extra people will have lives barely worth living. We have to help all present and future animals and other sentient beings as much as we would help our closest friends and family members. We have to perform medical experiments on our bodies to find cures for other people. We have to save and invest almost all our income for the benefits of future generations. We have to spend most of our time figuring out how to improve total welfare, and so forth. So as you can see, no one lives according to these high standards of total welfarism. You can call this theory totalitarian welfarism because it is so counterintuitive, it is so demanding. It demands too much of us. No one lives like that. How can we avoid this high demandingness of total welfarism? Well, that's my proposal for mild welfarism. It's a milder theory. What this basically does is the following. We have to choose the option or the situation that has the highest total discounted welfare. So the highest sum of welfare minus discounts. You can call this theory also discounted utilitarianism. Discounting basically means deducting an amount. If you get a discount on a product, the price is lower, you deduct the amount from the price. Here you can see, look like everyone has a price, a welfare, and you can discount this welfare. So everyone has a right to discount the welfare of others. And now, if I may discount your welfare, you may not like it, of course. And there are some conditions only when discounting is allowed. When I discount your welfare, because not discounting it would be too demanding for me. When I discount your welfare, I'm only allowed to do so if you cannot validly complain against this discounting, against your welfare being discounted. So everyone has the right to discount welfare of others if the welfare discounted individuals, those whose welfare are discounted, cannot validly complain or protest against their welfare being discounted. Now, interestingly, with this theory, there are always two people involved. One is the person who discounts the welfare of someone else. That's the welfare discounting individual. He who discounts the welfare of someone else. And then there is the other one, the person whose welfare is being discounted. So there are two people, and what you can say is that this constraint, this condition about when you are allowed to discount someone's welfare, that refers actually to whether or not the existence or the non-existence of one of those two people is necessary or not necessary. That will become clear soon. But you can say, for example, that a discount is valid if the existence of the welfare discounting person is necessary. And you can also say that the discount is valid if, in a sense, the existence of the welfare discounted person is not necessary. It will become clearer with examples soon. So a complaint by welfare discount individual is not valid if the existence of the welfare discounting individual is, in a sense, necessary, which means the options cannot be chosen if none of the discounting individuals existed. Or in the second situation, a complaint is not valid if the existence of the welfare discounted individual is, in a sense, not necessary. Now, let's give an example. Let's start with population ethics. Population ethics means the area in ethics that deals with situations where we can influence who will exist in the future, who will be born, if that is determined by our choices. So then we have to take into consideration the welfare of future people. And in total utilitarianism, you could argue that it might be good to sacrifice our welfare by giving birth to lots of children, all with a very low but still positive welfare. So suppose you're now 100% happy, but you now have a duty to procreate a lot and have more than 100 children, and all these children are only 1% happy. So they are slightly happy, still positive happy, 1%. And you sacrifice all your happiness, you have a 0% happiness left. But in that second situation, when more than 100 children of you all are 1% happy, the total sum is more than 100%, is better than when you would be maximally happy and you have no or a few children. So according to total welfarism, the idea is that we have to have much more people, add more and more people to the world until the total welfare is maximum. And this is very demanding, of course. How can we avoid this situation? Well, here we have to consider the fact that suppose you have the right to discount the welfare of those not yet born children. Yeah. So their welfare, their 1% happiness, those numbers don't count. In the current situation, you're 100% happy. In the other situation, you're 0% happy, and you have newborn children who are slightly happy, 1% happy. What you can say now is, I don't want this second situation. I don't want to breed so much children, give birth to so many new people, and sacrifice all my happiness. I don't want that. So I'm going to discount the welfare of those non-born children. The idea is discounting welfare is problematic. People don't like it. But in this case, if you discount the welfare, and now you take the situation that maximizes the total discounted welfare. The discounted welfare means the welfare of those future children minus their discounts. If you discount those welfares completely, the welfares don't count anymore. And in that situation, the situation with the highest total welfare is your current situation where you're maximally happy and where those extra children don't exist. Is this problematic? Well, no, because those children who do not exist cannot complain. They cannot validly complain against their welfare being discounted. Why? Because they don't exist. Their existence is necessary for them to complain. That's what I mentioned previously, that the existence of the welfare discounted individual is in a sense not necessary. Basically, the option, if the option that is chosen is one where the welfare discounted individual, the child, the extra child, does not exist. If that option is chosen, that basically means that the existence of that welfare discounted individual is not necessary. And that means that in that case, where you choose a situation that the child does not exist, that child cannot validly complain against welfare being discounted. So this is in literature called the repugnant conclusion, the idea that we have to procreate a lot and give birth to many more people and sacrifice our happiness until everyone is slightly happy, and there are billions of people slightly happy, many more people than are alive today. That's the repugnant conclusion. That's a conclusion faced by total welfarism, but mild welfarism escapes this conclusion. More realistic example of this this effect that we see in mild welfarism is, for example, happy animal farming. Most people believe that most farm animals have a negative welfare, and that's easy. It's not good if an animal with a negative welfare is being born, so we have to avoid that. But what if the cow was slightly happy, had a positive welfare overall on a farm, and is slaughtered and killed for their meat? So then you have to imagine there are three situations. First situation is the no breeding situation. People don't breed farm animals, which means they cannot eat meat. They have to go vegan. The animals don't exist. The farm animals don't exist. The second situation is the farm animal situation, where animals are born and have a slightly positive life overall, but then are painlessly slaughtered and killed for their meat. And that means the happiness of the human, the meat eater, is slightly higher. The human can enjoy eating meat. The happiness of the cow is small but positive. Would that be good? Everyone's welfare increases, so to speak. So the meat eater, the human has a higher happiness. The cow has a higher happiness than non-existence. Would happy animal farming then be a good idea? Would that improve overall welfare? According to total utilitarianism, you could say yes. In that case, meat eating is allowed. But actually, no, because we can imagine a third situation where you also breed the animal, you cause the existence of the cow, but instead of on a farm, the cow is now on a farm sanctuary, an animal sanctuary, which means the cow can live a very happy, long life because you're not a farmer, you're not a livestock farmer, but you're a animal caregiver. You take care of the cow as much as you can. Basically, you sacrifice a lot of your welfare for the welfare of the cow. For the cow, that situation would be better. So basically, if you breed the animal on a farm. You want to eat meat. You raise a happy cow. Then that basically, once that cow exists, that cow can complain and say like, you know what, there's another situation, the third situation, the animal sanctuary situation, where our total happiness is highest. My happiness is higher. The happiness of the human is a bit lower because the human has to take care of the animal. But the total happiness is the highest in the animal sanctuary situation. Now, as a response, the human can say like, yeah, okay, but for me in that situation, my happiness is lowest of all the three possible situations. If you take that reasoning to the extreme, it means that I have to breed a lot of animals, happy animals, raise them on a animal sanctuary, sacrifice all my happiness to have more and more extremely happy newborn animals on this sanctuary. That's not what I like. That could maximize total happiness, okay, but I don't like that situation. So you know what? The human says to the cow, I'm going to discount your welfare. And in this case, the discount welfare of the cow in the situation of the animal sanctuary. Now, what that would mean is the cow can still complain in the second situation on the farm, because the cow exists and can say like, look, in the third situation, the animal sanctuary situation, my happiness is highest. So then the human can also discount the welfare of the animal so much that basically, in all situations, so much that basically the best situation is the one where the animal does not exist. So the human can only escape this repugnant conclusion of breeding a lot of animals on a sanctuary. The human can only escape this conclusion by discounting the welfare of the animals so much that basically the only option with the highest total discounted welfare is the one where only the human exists and the animals are not brought into existence. And that means, in that case, that's the only case where the non-existent animals cannot complain against their welfare being discounted. This basically also means that even happy animal farming is not allowed. Even if the animals are slightly happy, and the meat eater is also happy by eating the animals, that situation is still not allowed. You can also look at it in a human framework. Happy slavery, the same story. Is it allowed for people to breed humans as slaves? Make sure that the slaves have a positive, slightly positive, low but slightly positive welfare. Would that be okay? You can say like, yeah, the slaves cannot complain against their happiness being positive, against their slavery. But as we intuitively know, breeding happy slaves is also not allowed. And that means it's better for the slaves not to exist than for them to being brought into existence. So that's this theory of mild welfarism solves a lot of problems in population ethics. And in this case here, it refers to whether or not the existence of the welfare discounted individual is necessary. So the complaint made by a welfare discounted individual is not valid if the existence of this welfare discounted individual is not necessary, which means that the option that should be chosen is one where the discounted individual does not exist. Now there's a second scenario where a complaint becomes invalid, and that refers to whether the existence of the welfare discounting individual is necessary. And here we enter deontological ethics. So deontological ethics, that's basically the another important set of theories that contrasts with utilitarianism and with consequentialism in general. Deontological ethics says that there are simply boundaries, constraints on what you are allowed to do. You're not simply allowed to sacrifice people to increase total welfare. You're not allowed to do that. That's a deontological constraint, a rule that says you're not allowed to do it. And a specific example is organ transplantation. Suppose there is an organ shortage in the hospital. There are 5 patients. They need a kidney, a spleen, and a liver. And then there is one person who has the suitable organs, 5 organs. Is it allowed to kill, sacrifice this one innocent person and use his 5 organs to save the 5 patients? According to total utilitarianism, that would be allowed because saving 5 by sacrificing one means that there are 4 people saved. 5 people happy, 1 person not happy. The happiness of the 5 surviving people is more important. Their welfare trumps the loss of welfare of the sacrificed person. Now, what this sacrificed person can do is can say that that sacrificed person can discount the welfares of the patients in hospital. So the patients, their welfare increases when they are saved, when they receive the organs. Those 5 patients, their welfare increases. But the one person who is sacrificed can say, like, no, we are not going to count that increase in welfare. That increase in welfare is not important. Then this one person is the welfare discounting individual. He is going to discount the welfare increases of the other people, the 5 people in hospital. Can those 5 people in hospital complain against their welfare being discounted? In a sense, no, because the welfare discounting individual, this one person who is about to be sacrificed, can say, like, look, if I did not exist, if I was not present here, you could not use my organs, and you do not have the organs, and that means you will still die, you will not be made better off. So if I did not exist, you would not be made better off. That means your increase in welfare is not valid. In order for the plan to work, in order for the 5 patients to be saved, the body of the one person who is sacrificed has to be present. Without the body of the sacrificed person, the plan cannot work. The people cannot be saved. That means if the body is necessary, the complaints of the 5 patients are not valid. And if they're not valid, then their welfare can be discounted, and then the situation that has the highest total discounted welfare is the one where the one person is not sacrificed and the 5 patients in hospital die. So this means that we are not allowed to use someone's body against his will, against her will, for the ends of someone else, as a means for the ends of someone else. In deontological ethics, that's also referred to as the mere means principle. You're not allowed to use someone as merely a means for someone else's ends. The means means that the body has to be present. You cannot use a hammer if the hammer is not present. The hammer is used as a means because the hammer is necessary to hit a nail. The existence of the hammer is necessary. If the hammer would not be necessary to hit a nail, then the hammer is not used as a means. And the merely in front of the means and merely means, the merely refers to the fact that the individual does not want to be used. It's against their will. And here, that's another reason why slavery, for example, is not permissible, because the slave is used as a means against his will or her will. And so the body of the slave has to be present, otherwise the slave cannot do anything, cannot work, and the slaves are treated against their will. They have to do something or undergo something against their will. Also, here again, in animal farming, even if the animals are happy, but definitely when the farm animals are unhappy, have a negative welfare, using them is not allowed. So that's why we have to go vegan, because for animal products, if you consume animal products, the body of the animals has to be present. The existence of the animal is necessary. Otherwise, you don't get the animal product. And the animals have to do something or undergo something against their will. Also, for example, saving your own child instead of an unknown child far away. You're allowed to save your own child instead of, let's say, 2 children far away. The total welfarist would say you have to save the 2 children. That's more important than saving only 1 child. Suppose in a burning house, you can choose either between saving your own child or saving 2 unknown children. You prefer saving your own child. Is that okay? According to mild welfarism, that is okay, because if suppose I will condemn you, you save your own child, I condemn you saying, no, you should have saved the other 2 children because the numbers count. You have to save the highest number of children. You did wrong. Then when I judge you, you can say like, look, if I were not present, all the children would have died. So those 2 children that I didn't save would also die. So my body was necessary to save the children, at least one of the children. So what you can do is then discount the welfare of the children who are not saved. And those children cannot complain against it, because you can say to them, look, if I did not exist, you would not be made better off. This basically then means that in a burning house dilemma, you're allowed to be partial, you're allowed to save your own child instead of increase the total happiness more by saving many more other children. It's also why you're allowed to buy a present for your own child instead of having to donate money to dying children in Africa, for example. Partiality is allowed, but what's also important, finally, is that you could say that this discounting of welfare is not absolute. There is an upper bound on how much welfare of others you are allowed to discount. For example, when you can cause the existence of a huge number of extremely happy people only at a very small cost for yourself, then you should bring those very happy people into existence. When you can save many patients in the hospital at a very, very small cost of yourself, let's say it requires a piece of hair to save a patient, then you could say like you have to donate a piece of your hair to save the patient in the hospital. And also, when you have a lot of money, you have to donate money to charities and save others, save children far away. You probably have to do it if you have a lot of money, because you will not sacrifice that much if you donate a little bit of your money. So there are limits on how much welfare of others you can discount. How much welfare we can discount, are allowed to discount, that's something that we can discuss. At what point do we have a duty to sacrifice a little bit to help others? That we can democratically decide. If we make collective decisions, we have to decide it collectively, democratically. But in those extreme cases, like suppose you can, everyone will die except if we use one person against their will, sacrifice one person, use the body of one person to save everyone else, then you can say like, okay, in that case, perhaps you're allowed to sacrifice this one person. So that summarizes a bit the theory. Let me summarize by saying that in general, the conclusion is that everyone has the right to discount someone else's welfare in some options. If those options are not possible, or if the outcomes of those options would change, if the people who do the discounting did not exist, or if the option with the highest total discounted welfare is one in which the people whose welfare is discounted do not exist. And a complaint made by welfare discounted people is not valid if the existence of the discounting people is in a sense necessary, so the option cannot be chosen if none of the discounting people existed, or if the existence of the discounted people is in a sense not necessary, which means the option that should be chosen is one where the people do not exist. This might be too complicated to simply, if you hear it like that. On my website, you can look for the article Mild Welfarism, Avoiding the Demandingness of Totalitarian Welfarism. So if you Google Mild Welfarism, you find a longer description. But I think that the two examples that I gave are clear enough. To conclude, with mild welfarism, you basically avoid many problems that we see in total utilitarianism or total totalitarianism, welfarism, referring to the fact that discounting welfare means there are two people involved, the person who does discounting and the person whose welfare is discounted. And in those, because of the fact that there are always two people involved, you can avoid two kinds of problems. One kind of problem is that we see in population ethics, and that's this Rebeccan conclusion. The other kind of problem, that's what we see when we use someone as merely a means, and that's being addressed in deontological ethics. So that basically means that mild welfarism is basically a deontological version of utilitarianism that avoids many of the counterintuitive problems entailed by this totalitarian welfarism. So that concludes it. Thanks for watching.